Today we're going to look at how you can scale Piccolo down to use it in quite simple data science scripts. So all of our tutorials so far have looked at Piccolo projects and apps. So I've got one open here, and what we have is Piccolo.conf, which defines our database, and then we have an app registry which defines all of our apps. But what happens if you don't want all of that extra complexity? You just want to write a simple script. So I've got an example open here, and what this script does is it fetches weather data and then we store it in a database. So we do a few imports. We have HTTPX, which is used for API calls. We import some Piccolo columns. We import the SQLite engine. And what we do is we define the SQLite engine here, and then you can just pass an engine instance directly into the table. So if we go back to our larger project, you'll notice that we don't do this. When we don't explicitly pass in the engine, what will happen is the table will look for Piccolo.conf and import it automatically. But if we basically don't want to use a Piccolo.conf at all, we can just pass it straight in. So here we've defined two tables. We've got a city, so for example London, New York, and then we've got weather data. So which city it's for, the temperature, and when we fetch the data. So you'll see here that the timestamp doesn't have a default value because it's already the current date, so that's fine. And then we use this library called .env, and what this does is it loads environment variables from a .env file. So in this case, we're loading our API key for the weather API. So if we look here in our main function, so we're doing it all with async just to kind of show off some of the async capabilities. And then this is just common Python boilerplate, which will run this coroutine when we run main.py on the command line. So there's this create tables function, which we added very recently. And this is super convenient. All you have to do is pass it a bunch of Piccolo tables and it creates them all for you. But what it also does is it looks at the foreign key relationships between the tables and then creates them in the right order. And here we use HTTPX to create a HTTP client, and then asyncio.gather basically spins up a bunch of coroutines and launches them at the same time. So what we're going to do is call getData 3 times, once for London, once for New York, and once for Paris. And if we have a look at this getData coroutine, so here we get the URL for open weather map. We get the response using HTTPX, and then we use get or create in Piccolo to get the relevant table, their city, and then we save a new weather data object with the temperature that came back from the API. So you can see here, we get the temperature back from the API response. And then it just saves that new weather data object. And that's it. So you can see how easy it is to integrate Piccolo with your data science scripts. Or even if you're building a fast API app and it's just a single Python file, you can just include Piccolo really, really easily. So just to show that this works, we're going to jump to the command line. So I'm going to get rid of the existing database just so you can see it all from scratch. So if I run this now, we do ls, you'll see that it's created this database for us. And then I can then jump inside it. And you'll see here it's loaded all the cities. And then the same with weather data. So you'll see here that there's 3 values, so each of these corresponds to a different city. Here's a temperature reading for the different cities and the time at which they were saved in the database. Okay, so let's just run it once more just to verify. So again, like, we don't have any duplicates here, and then we now have 6 rows in our weather data. So that's it for today, just a very quick one, just to show how Piccolo scales down as well as up. So no matter what size project you're working on, hopefully Piccolo will be useful. Thank you very much.